All right, let's get right into it. Today we're looking at a wildly entertaining and honestly kind of chaotic experiment run by YouTuber Fulton. He set out to answer a really fascinating question. Can you beat the entirety of the Roblox game Keyboard Escape on a brand new account in exactly 30 minutes? Now, under normal circumstances, you'd probably say, no way, that's completely impossible. But there's a massive twist to this challenge. He gave himself permission to use an unlimited amount of Robux. So we're talking infinite money up against a strict ticking clock.
Okay, let's dive into this because this whole setup creates a really compelling dynamic. We usually think of pay-to-win mechanics as the absolute ultimate shortcut in gaming. You open your wallet, you swipe your card, and boom, you instantly bypass hours of tedious grinding. But does that strategy actually work when you're racing against a literal 30-minute time limit? Can raw financial power overcome the physical limitations of navigating a game world? Or is there a point where money simply can't buy you speed?
Let's kick things off with World 1 and what we'll call the strategy of speed.
Right out of the gate, Fulton wastes zero time. The second that timer starts, his reflex isn't to actually start running the course. No, it's to open the shop and start dumping Robux to execute this early strategy. Step 1, buy that max server boost to multiply all incoming gains. Step 2, hop on that premium 1,600 Robux treadmill. Step 3, purchase massive speed upgrades instantly. The logic here is incredibly straightforward, right? Just bypass the entire early game grind. Instead of taking the time to slowly level up his character's speed stat through normal gameplay, he's literally just buying his way to the absolute top in a matter of seconds.
And just look at the sheer absurdity of these numbers. 10 million. Barely 3 minutes into the 30-minute challenge, he manages to reach 10 million speed points and a staggering 256x speed multiplier. He literally hits the game's maximum speed cap of 50 before he's even finished the earliest stages of the game. It's a completely ridiculous level of power for a brand new level 1 account to have.
But here is where we hit the central, and frankly hilarious, conflict of this entire explainer. On one hand, you have max speed, instantly bought with an endless supply of Robux. But on the other hand, you have character control. See, Keyboard Escape requires precise platforming. You've got to navigate these tight mazes in Stage 12, jump over rolling chocolate balls, and carefully balance on tiny ledges. When your character is artificially boosted to move at the speed of light, precision goes right out the window. He just starts dying constantly simply because he cannot control his own momentum.
As Fulton himself observes mid-run, it's like the faster you are, the harder it gets. This quote just perfectly captures the tragic irony of his situation. The very pay-to-win strategy he relied on to beat the clock is actively sabotaging his gameplay. He's going so fast that he's repeatedly flinging himself off platforms and failing the absolute easiest early stages. He's burning precious minutes on the clock all because he has way too much speed and absolutely zero control.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the panic genuinely starts to set in. As he struggles to just get past stage 14, logic takes a total backseat to desperation, resulting in these mid-run panic purchases. He starts buying everything in sight, hoping it'll fix his skill issue. We're talking 25,000 wins, a 2,400 Robux Infinity Trail, a Storm Aura, even a chocolate skin. And bizarrely, right in the middle of this frantic race against a ticking clock, he actually takes a detour to promote his real-life Target plushies dropping in August. It really just goes to show how chaotic and disorganized a speedrun can get when money is no object.
Moving on to World 2, we encounter a massive problem: the critical error.
Let's anchor ourselves to the timeline here to really feel that pressure. So the challenge started at minute 0. But because he just spent 5 full minutes standing completely still on a treadmill trying to brute force his stats, the clock is rapidly disappearing. By the time he finally cleared World 1, he was already 15 minutes in. Literally half of his time was gone. By the time he escapes the World 2 boss, we're sitting at the 26-minute mark. The realization is hitting hard that all the Robux in the world might not physically move his character through the levels fast enough to beat the game.
And then, a massive mechanical oversight comes to light. He suddenly stops and realizes, wait a second guys, I'm so dumb. We have not rebirthed at all. In these types of Roblox games, rebirthing is a core gameplay loop that resets your stats in exchange for massive permanent multipliers. And he completely forgot to use this mechanic until he was well over halfway through the challenge. That means he'd been leaving an insane amount of progression and speed entirely on the table.
So, how do you recover from a fundamental gameplay mistake like that when the clock is practically at 0? Well, you pull out the digital credit card again. Here's his frantic recovery plan.
First, he farms 60 million wins to get a massive step multiplier. Second, he spams the rebirth button, spending 500 Robux for each single rebirth. And third, he just keeps clicking and paying until he physically hits the maximum rebirth limit the game allows. It is an absolute sheer force of spending just to salvage the run.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of that spending spree. Level 583. That massive influx of Robux shoots his character up hundreds of levels in a matter of seconds. Armed with this new, artificially inflated power level, he finally blazes through the rest of World 2. He navigates the dead-end mazes, dodges the massive tsunami, and outruns the boss. For a brief moment, the money finally did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Which pushes us now into the thrilling climax, World 3 and the buzzer beater.
Fulton enters the final world with only 4 minutes left on the clock, which is a perfect recipe for maximum panic. The margin for error is officially 0. Any misstep, any fall off a ledge, any wrong turn in a maze, and the challenge is completely over. But there's a huge, unexpected problem. He realizes the game is actually updated since he last played it. The stages in World 3 are completely unfamiliar to him. He can no longer rely on his memory of the map to just speed through. He's now forced to sight read and navigate completely new obstacles under extreme, heart-pounding time pressure.
In a totally last-ditch effort to keep his momentum alive and brute force the new levels, he makes a desperate grab for 300 million wins in World 3. He needs these wins to forcefully push his character's level up to 615. The clock is literally ticking down to the final minute and a half. He's flying through the early stages of the world, relying purely on the massive stats he's purchased to carry him through the unknown terrain.
But then it happens. He hits a wall. A literal, mathematical wall that money just cannot break. To pass Stage 6 in this newly updated world, the game recommends a stage level of 650. Fulton's player level, even after spending countless Robux, is stuck at 615. And the most devastating metric of all, the time remaining is just 30 seconds. Progressing past this point is physically impossible. He lacks both the necessary in-game levels and the real-world seconds to grind for them.
Which brings us to the inevitable outcome, summed up by Fulton as the timer runs out. We failed the challenge, dang it! The 30-minute timer hits 0 right as his character is stuck at Stage 6. Despite the massive influx of cash, despite buying every multiplier, treadmill, aura, and rebirth available, he couldn't beat the clock. The unlimited budget finally met an immovable deadline. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If unlimited money can't buy you a victory against the clock, what is the ultimate currency in gaming? This explainer perfectly showcases the real limits of pay-to-win mechanics. You know, you can buy stats, you can buy speed, and you can buy shiny trails. But you cannot buy pure mechanical skill, you can't buy familiarity with unexpected game updates, and most importantly, you can't buy more time. Think about that the next time you're tempted to shortcut your way through a challenge. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how you play.